Welcome, everyone, to the most ill-conceived business podcast around, the Business is Bullshit podcast. Bit of a delay. We're 20 minutes into recording. I'm not going to give the extended intro. So, Jared Gibson, Jon Tsourakis, welcome. Good to see you guys again. I can't wait to go hard on AI Hysteria.
This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, this is episode 30. We're 30 in. Can't believe we got this far. Right. And AI Hysteria is bullshit. And Jared, you're going to give the context for this if you're able to pull the research up in time of why we're talking about this, because I think it's a hot topic. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure you guys do too. So, but why don't you kind of lay this up, give us kind of the context of what we're discussing and why.
All right. So here's the background here. First off, I want to preface this with saying that I feel that James, Jon, and I are probably in a bubble of a knowledge base where we understand AI pretty well, but we are by no means like experts. I'm not sitting in Claude code all day just building. I use AI every single day. My business is AI, like James, Jon, the same thing. So that's a quick hit that before we go. This started because I think it was last week, there was an article that was making its rounds by a guy named Matt Schumer that I'm sure a lot of people in my network and most people probably read this because it was passed around on any social media platform. And Matt Schumer runs an AI startup. I think he's 6 years he's run this startup. And this created mass hysteria. It was funny because you watch the sequence of events where this came out and he basically said, I'm seeing everything that you're not seeing yet, and what I'm seeing is terrifying because of the speed at which it's moving. And for the first 24 hours that this came out, it was the world is ending. Like, it was hysteria. It was everybody's reading this and taking this literally. And then you started to, after about 24 hours, the people that are really in the know and close to a lot of this started weighing in. And basically saying what James is going to say is that, this is crazy. Like, this dude needs to just slow down. Like, this is backing him.
Your world is ending, nerd. The rest of us are just fine.
Yeah. So we had a text message chain going where James was very excited to talk. Animated is a good word to use around this, and I pushed back a little bit.
It seemed like you were really getting swept up in it, though, Jared. Like that.
I pushed back,
which is why
I pushed back. I read it, and it got me thinking because I think that some of the things that he talked about were, and then I later, I think the same day, saw a video from the CEO of the AI head for, I want to say Google CEO, or maybe Microsoft CEO, the head of AI over there.
The Anthropic guy had some stuff out too, but yeah.
But they were talking, both the article and this guy were talking about how certain roles like that we aren't prepared to lose, like lawyers, like legal roles, like things that I hadn't even thought about. So I think that that's where my head went, from a bit of a panic. But at the same time, this stuff is moving. The speed of which this is happening has been unmatched through anything that we've seen. The Industrial Revolution, everything that took place, even with cars, I mean, that was 10, 15 years. This is like literally months.
I want to get into that because
we'll get into it. Let's talk.
I don't think the speed is even what's relevant, though. So a couple things. And Jon, do you have anything you want to weigh in? I don't want to just kind of take this over, have Jerry go back and forth. I don't know if there's anything you want to say.
Yeah, no, because I'm kind of in the middle of this, but I think the guy Eric is a bit of an exaggerator, like his sister Amy, who hates Tampa. So
why? Wait, what?
Amy Schumer trashed Tampa. Yeah, in her shitty.
Oh, so you're saying last name, and that was Matt Schumer. You're talking about Eric Schmidt's the former CEO of Google.
No, that guy. I think. I mean, he paints a pretty scary picture, but I think for the most part, the first two stages are kind of what we're living. So I'll let you guys go ahead.
I think so. Well, the first thing I want to say, I
want to go back to the stages, Jon, because I think that that's a good point that Eric Schmidt talked about.
Or what are you talking about?
No, the 3 stages of AI that he talked about. Okay. So we'll go back to that. But James, you go first.
So I think you first have to. The first thing I want to get out there with all these guys, these are all guys who work in AI. These are all guys who run AI companies. This is a classic case of talking your book. If you're trying to market your company and what you do, the best way to market an AI company right now is say how fucking terrifying it is. It's changing the world, and you have to, if you don't know us or work with us, like you need to, like, it's creating, like throwing FUD into the marketplace against the status quo is exactly what AI focused companies want to do. That's not to say they're completely wrong about everything, but I think you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. But of course, like, what's the head of Google or the head of Anthropic? What are they going to say? Oh, it's not really going to change much. Like, of course they're fucking saying it's going to change the world. No one's even disputing it's going to change the world, but like, you don't get headlines and people talking about you by saying nothing big is really going to happen. Like, it's just kind of marketing and self-promotion 101. So I'm not saying it's not big, but I am saying you have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt.
I get that, but I don't think it's necessarily whether technology is going to replace the jobs. I think that's always been the case. I think it's about how fast the capability is improving. Like, the jumps that are happening every few months used to take years to happen. So I think that the scare that people have, the panic, is knowing how fast it's moving and not knowing what's going to happen next.
But, okay, I accept that, but you also have to realize, and this is the irony of the entire thing. Other people have made this point because it is hysterical. Is like, this is a very much a tech-centric tech worker issue. Like, Matt Schumer's post was talking about how, like, working our, like, you know, it's already displacing us. Like, yeah, like, the nerds successfully created technology that displaces other nerds, but like, it's such a small percentage of our economy in the grand scheme of things. And the net benefit it provides for everybody else who isn't a tech nerd is more than makes up for that, just in my view. But like, software engineers are less than 1% of the US workforce. So they automated.
But you're just talking about, like, that's where I may push
about,
back
like,
a little
bit. They're talking
I
about,
push back. I think it's automating.
But I think it's displacement,
yes.
Right? So they're going to end up somewhere else.
But okay, let's break that down. So software engineers, 0.9% of the workforce. All computer and mathematical occupations, 3% of the workforce. White collar jobs. This is where they're saying AI could theoretically replace. That's 30 to 40% of the workforce. But you have to realize that includes teachers, that includes nurses, that includes social workers, managers.
Teachers are white collar? Really? I didn't know that.
Knowledge on the screen work is 20 to 25%. The rest of the economy, you got healthcare workers. Healthcare is 14%, retail's 10%, food services 7%, construction 6%. I mean, there's like, it's still very focused. Even when you're talking about office workers in the grander scheme of things, right? So, do you really do you think it's realistic that like 25%, meaning everybody, is getting displaced by this? Like, it's not even, it's kind of a silly, take.
I think that the problem is that we don't know. And that the fact that, like, it is absolute, like, how fast this is moving, it could happen. I do think that at least 25% of the workforce could get displaced. But we don't know, because we've, again, never seen anything move this fast.
25 is pretty high based on all those figures.
That's absurd. It's an absurd.
Yeah, I'd say attorneys are definitely going to get impacted, like huge. Accountants. I'd say the things that are probably most likely going to get impacted are on two sides. One, the things that people hate, like the positions they hate the most. Granted, we all know attorneys. They're really good people, but when you actually people despise that they actually have to exist. Right. Same thing with accountants for the most part, because it's taxes.
Make sure Mrs. doesn't listen to this podcast.
Well, I'm saying we all have attorneys that in our world. We love them, right? I mean, yeah, we got family members that have. But I mean, the fact that function has to exist, if somebody can replace that with technology, they're going to begin attacking that problem, especially through just the logic sequence of both of those two different fields, right? So I'd say those are definitely on the way out. Scariest thing about that, though, is there's a lot of money and wealth built into both of those types of positions, especially in that white collar economy. So I'd say most of those are probably at the top tier of that at the white collar spectrum there.
Yeah.
So there's probably 3 or 4 angles I want to go here. I want to talk about the historical component. I want to talk about the pure upside component, which is getting missed on this. And I also want to talk about, even in relatively more recent history where there's been shifts like this, and how it actually creates brand new jobs we're not able to envision. short of that, the one thing I do want to point out, though, because we're all sales guys, or we all have been sales guys kind of in this call. And then again, this is a take that's been out there. I'm not inventing this one, but what's ultimately happened with this is technology companies, SaaS companies, you're seeing SaaS have a meltdown. There's an artificial moat that was constructed around software because there was a high barrier cost to entry, because the cost of employing software developers was so high that it made it difficult for new software to get out there. It made it, people could have crappy software that wasn't well supported. And that's just gone away. I mean, it's now the cost of actually, so the artificial moat is gone, which is terrifying for SaaS companies. But what that really ultimately means is now that anyone can create anything much faster, it's who can actually sell it, who can actually market it, who can actually listen to customers and find something that they actually want, and who's got the better vision to kind of manage relationships. Like, this is like the ability to sell something, market something, and go to market is ultimately the biggest value right now. You could argue it always was, but that's the thing that I think is really going to be separating companies going forward. And that is a mind fuck for anyone who's been on the technology side. The types of people who thought sales just happen if you create a great product, we're the most important people in the room, and they work themselves out of a job. And now, once again, the jocks who go into sales are the ones who are not worrying about this. So
the jocks, yeah. Nerds and jocks.
Nerds and jocks. So nerds were running the crucible. And yeah. I think that I want to talk about this, Jared, because you're talking about this, the pace at which this is taking place. Arguably, I mean, how far into AI are we now? 4 years since ChatGPT came out, so it's ability to happen faster. I do want to point some things out here, though, because you look back at like agricultural revolution, manufacturing decline, computers, and the panic that happened there. And now you have kind of the AI parallel. So agricultural revolution, I know this sounds old and hokey, but this is still real. 1900, 41% of our workforce was in agriculture. In the year 2000, it's 1.9%. Somehow we made it out okay. Somehow it worked out.
Say those numbers again.
It was 41% of the workforce in 1900. And now it's relatively recently, it's like under 2%. So 39% of the workforce got displaced, but that's like 40 million jobs in today's numbers. But like they found other things to do. Like it's the core problem.
There are more people dying from starvation now than there's ever been.
Manufacturing declined. So 1950, 31% of the workforce is in manufacturing. In 2020, it's 8%. So just the amount of a massive shift that's happened kind of over that time frame.
But
so
that's a shift we've sent overseas, right?
But we still have, the employment, people still here are working. Like there's the core economic problem.
I understand what you're saying now. Yeah.
The core problem of economics is we have unlimited wants and needs. Like we always want to do and build more shit as a society, but we have limited resources to do it. What's ultimately happening now is now that you have AI able to create things that we need more easily and cheaply, we have more capital and labor able to do more and more jobs that wouldn't have been feasible before. And there's plenty of things you can kind of look at this, because like I was even going to say, so even as early as like the 60s to the 90s, when personal computers kind of started happening the same thing, all kinds of jobs like popped up that wouldn't have existed before. Like, so there was a guy, I had to look this one up too, the Solow paradox. He was like saying in the 80s, people were saying personal computers are like ruining everything, but there was like no economic impact, right? It was bizarre how it didn't show up in the data. But then it finally did in the 90s, sometime later. But what happened in the 90s? The internet took off. So it wasn't like personal computers made less office workers needed. It just created new types of office workers. Everything in the internet, everything in social media, e-commerce, apps, web development, all these things we have now were jobs that were created because all of a sudden computers were an affordable thing that everyone can do. The challenge is that it's just hard to see what it's going to be. Like it's terrifying now that everyone's like, well, AI is coming, it's going to take all of our jobs. But if history tells us anything, it's going to create new jobs for people to do. It's just in the moment, you don't know what those are yet. And that's also why I think like this whole panic aspect of it's overplayed, just because you can't predict the future, but history can tell us like we're going to find other shit that we need to accomplish as a society. We're going to build an economy around it.
Yeah, I agree. Fine, everything you just said, I agree with. I think that the missing piece to a lot of this in what you're saying, and again, I am not a developer, so this is like somewhat of a foreign language to me, is that what we're starting to see, and this is picked up pretty significantly over the last few months, is that AI is starting to accelerate itself. I don't think that's something that even the smartest people, at least from what I've heard, are confused by that and a little bit concerned by that. Like, so AI writes code, AI trains models, AI agents run experiments. Then you've got that feedback loop just continues to increase the velocity of the improvement, and velocity changes the entire equation because it continues to just get faster and faster. So when you've got these agents that are, and this goes back to what Eric Schmidt talked about, and basically his premise was that there's three, and John, tell me if I'm off by this. He talked about the fact that there's 3 stages to all of this. Like, the first is AI can remember and think in very like long conversations. So right now, when you talk to AI, it can remember a lot, right?
Rewriting your email.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think, what most people are using it for. The second stage is AI agents that work on their own, meaning like an agent is like a smart robot assistant. And I think that the people that are a little bit more in the know are using this. This is something that, like, I would say maybe 5% of people that understand it are using and capitalizing on. It's great. Like, that's awesome. So far, so good. The third is this text to action. Like, you say it and then it builds it. So you can tell AI, like, build me this software, and it just does it. Like, it works all day, all night. It writes the code and it builds things, which is insane. And that's kind of next level of where we are right now. And then the fourth stage, fourth stage. So the fourth stage is the part that's concerning, I think, a lot of people. And this is where the hysteria comes into play. When you combine infinite memory, millions of agents, AI that can build software itself, then eventually those systems could start working together, start communicating in ways that we don't fully understand, and get very, very fucking powerful enough that humans don't fully control the process anymore. And he talks about, at that point, that's when we have to pull the cord because we've lost all control. I mean, that is the part where the hysteria comes from.
I love science fiction.
But he talked about it. He's like, that is the science fiction part of where we are today and
that's
why
the
everybody's so
unknown
confirmed.
Of all of this.
Yes.
Yeah. Like when they develop their own language and they start communicating and doing something, like what happens then?
Yeah. And honestly,
sure.
like,
I'm worried about right? robots traveling back in time and killing us so they can recreate themselves in the future. And there's a lot of things.
There he is. There it is.
We should be worried about the nuclear bomb going off at any given time. Do you know how many times we barely averted nuclear war? Jared, did you ever finish the Turning Point Cold War in the bomb special?
No.
We came really fucking close a lot of times.
I know. I need to go back to it and pick it back up. But I want to put a bow on this, the end of it, where I don't want to call it hysteria because I'm like, I don't necessarily think that like this whole thing for me is about hysteria. Like the apocalypse narrative is exaggerated. I agree. The acceleration narrative is not. And as a parent, this becomes personal. Like as a dad of 2 young kids, like this is where it gets real for me. The education system that's built around preparing your kid for known careers.
Yeah, but can I counter that?
Go.
This might be the best thing that's ever happened to children because their parents preparing them for careers. I mean, in some cases, I think that's really worked out, but I think in tons of others, there's like a wider swath that didn't really know what they wanted to do. Yeah. And then there's others that essentially are just, they're not going to do anything, right? They're just going to like stumble into it. So I think this could actually be a real big positive rather than just forcing people to be, attorneys or engineers or so on and so forth.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, that would be great. But having the control as a parent is where...
Yeah, it's fair.
Not having an answer is where that's what's concerning for me.
Yeah. I wanted to throw this out there too because I think it's an important thing, and this is where Jared really started lighting me up, calling me a boomer for these takes when we were on our technical exchange. The terminology, technological unemployment. You ever heard that before? It was coined by John Maynard Keynes in 1930s because that's how far back this went of people being worried about like
He's got to create the 8-hour workday, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like he actually, where he got it wrong is he thought no one would be working in the future because like all the machines and computers essentially do everything for us. And turns out we just find more shit to do, which is kind of my entire point about why we don't have to work. Like there's a million things we can accomplish. But if you go back through like my whole point is that the sci-fi angle is interesting, Jared. That's a new one for this whole thing. But the general hysteria about what's going to happen to us, what's going to happen to our jobs, this is all happening so fast. There's nothing new about that. Throughout human history, the fear of being displaced and, we're not going to do, you can look back at, like, he was talking about it. There's the whole folklore of John Henry versus the steam drill, like building the railroads in the 1800s, the Luddites who were smashing machines. In the 1960s, President Johnson actually made a commission about automation to see if it was going to destroy our fucking economy or something like that. It's just that it's a natural fear to think that the thing you've dedicated your life to, the thing you do for a living, could go away because a new improvement came out. And not to poo-poo that, because there will be some people right now but there's other things to do. And as a society, like I think that fear is completely off base because we have a million things we could accomplish as a society and as an economy that aren't going to need AI. So, anyways,
I almost went down a political rabbit hole.
Finally get a cure for acne.
So I'm glad you mentioned that too.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah,
I want to. Yeah, exactly. So here's some examples too. I had to pull these out. Things that only became viable when cost went down. We're going to go way back on the first one you guys are rolling your eyes on. Did you know aluminum used to be more expensive than gold? Like aluminum cans, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
So I didn't know that either.
What year was that? Was that like when they were doing the spaceships in like the 40s, 50s, 60s?
1800s. And in 1886, they made some sort of electrolysis process where the price dropped 80% overnight, and now aluminum's everywhere. But to your point about medical, DNA sequencing, the Human Genome Project for early 2000s, right? That cost like $3 billion. It took them 13 years to do. Now, instead of doing $3 billion for a genome or whatever it was, it's now like $80, 23andMe, all this kind of stuff. Like that was impossible to do 20 years ago because of the cost. Now it's like nothing. SpaceX, everything Elon Musk is doing there, like the cost of rockets has just plummeted. You look at the solar power industry, look at cloud computing, look at all these things. When the cost of entry gets lower, it creates new industries that are now viable that weren't economically viable before. And what I was actually interested in, there were two things: preventative healthcare, like you can make individualized preventative healthcare for anybody. That's now possible with AI, which I think we can all agree that's a good thing. Another thing, because Jared, you're talking about what kids, private tutoring, one-to-one tutoring, now possible. If you worry about education, like these are pure upside plays. Like, if anything, like you should be excited the fact that like with AI, with the cost of being able to educate someone coming down, it opens up much more customized and direct one-to-one learning that people can do.
Yeah, I get this, but I'm not going to say, hey, you guys come inside. Like you got to go to your tutor and have them sit in front of the screen longer. I get the premise behind it, but I don't know.
I think that's the premium, though, that's going to develop from this. Like, AI is going to develop this, like, human certification economy or, like, a human seal, and that's going to be, like, this luxury for instances like that.
How much do you guys think, like, when we think about, like, in real life, like, one-on-one... IRL, hashtag, like, how much is this going to become more... Like, I kind of bring that back to the norm. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and he runs a pretty significantly large size marketing agency that works with Fortune 500 companies and brands. And he said that the biggest demand right now are in-person events. Like people, like the amount that they're getting requests for getting people back in front of others is massive. Like it's like been 10 times what it was like
Everybody
in the last 2 years.
That's not surprising.
Well, not like in office, not necessarily in office. I'm just saying.
But that's what I'm talking about. They still crave that connection.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point we were talking before about like how sales and marketing, people still buy from people. That's it. Like if we learned anything from the past how many years of SaaS sales and the fucking disaster of like cold spamming and canned playbooks, like everyone who's ever been pitched by a SaaS salesperson fucking hates it. but they had this artificial moat which propped up their company, and that's just how business was done. If that goes away and it actually comes back to people having to like have one-to-one conversations,
build relationships,
all because people can build software more cheaply, it's just like
for
good.
high involvement purchases. But yeah, I mean, then it makes sense people want to buy. But I mean, people are buying cars online now. People are getting bank accounts online without ever talking. Those are pretty high involvement purchases. But yeah, I think it's when something's complicated that people are unfamiliar with, they'll always want to buy from another person.
Yep. What else?
I also look at you guys, and Jared, look at you specifically. Like you and your business, like you are benefiting from this. Like there's a lot of businesses out there that are going to get crushed. A lot of SaaS businesses are going to get crushed because people are going to realize, wait, I don't need to buy this SaaS. I can literally build it in-house easier now. But like, how many people are at your firm now? You're still a pretty small place.
Yeah, pretty small. We have our three founders, and then we've got maybe 9 contract workers right now. The
amount and I've seen like the
great
quality
margins
of stuff you guys are putting out there now compared to like when you guys were just getting started. Before, like you had like the tools you have now to create what you're creating on behalf of your clients allow you guys to do more shit that would have been cost prohibitive or taken longer just 2 years ago.
But for sure, there's a counter to that. Because that means the competition also has that. And then there's only a finite amount of attention that people have for this. So at what point does that then just become noise and fodder?
Well, it's strategy versus tactics. You know, the people who actually can think up a plan to like for their clients or for their consumers or whatever, and actually create something good and valuable. They have an easier path of doing, a less costly path of doing that now. And those are the people who are going to outperform the ones who are just kind of hacks and they can put some hacky shit together cheap. Just quality.
I agree with that. I'm going to go with that answer, John.
It was a good answer.
It's a great answer. And it's true, but it's true.
Yeah. And I have to say this, I mean, I worked in recruiting for a long time. I feel bad for anybody who, there's going to be people displaced, 100%. And I feel bad for anyone who has to like suffer, like it's traumatic when you lose a job or, whatever, but these are smart people though too, you know what I mean? Like these software engineers, if there's not as many jobs, first off, I don't believe that software engineers are going to lose their jobs. I think that you still need software engineers to create this shit, and if they're good,
for sure,
that's going to happen. But it's just part of life is that new jobs come up, new functions that we haven't even conceived yet are going to be there, and other stuff's going to be not as needed on the way out. And if anything, like I think the premise of this whole podcast was like, business is bullshit. We like to look at stuff, like look at how many jobs are bullshit, look at how many functions we do are bullshit, and the fact that AI has come around and is able to automate some of this stuff, we realize, okay, maybe we actually, like I think we can all agree, like there's a lot of shit we shouldn't have to deal with and we shouldn't need, and the fact that AI is displacing some of it, good.
So and then I think have you guys thought about like what potential roles will be prominent in the next 5 years? Like if we think about some of these white collar roles that are being replaced, like entry level especially, are there things that right now, when you think ahead, that people should start thinking about that maybe not be a role today?
I just think getting familiar with the functionality and understanding of AI so you're not a fucking moron is important.
All right.
What I mean by that is just like, I think what I've seen with a lot of people is they overly rely on it. So they're not staying sharp. They just produce something and they're not reading it or they're not prompting it in a specific way. So I think just making sure that you're staying sharp and as detail oriented as you can based on what your normal basis is a good approach. I think it would be almost silly to try to predict. Like whoever thought we'd have eBay stores, which are gone now.
I would say that's true. That was a lesson of the 80s when everyone was worried about, like, look at the 90s. Like, all these new jobs that are common didn't exist in the 80s, Like, the stuff that is going to come next, like, it's really hard to predict what that's going to be, Like, but in 10 years, it's going to look obvious. We're going to have new jobs and skill sets out there, and people are like, didn't see this coming, should have, so.
Yeah. I put it into ChatGPT. I ask it.
Yeah. When
you take over in 5 years, what will be the most important jobs for us? And it wrote back, good question. Here are some top jobs when we take over. AI systems architect. So human plus machine orchestrator, not just prompt engineer. high trust sales and deal makers. As creation gets cheaper, distribution and trust becomes scarcer. People who can build relationships. So this goes back to what we were talking about. Build relationships, close complex deals, navigate politics, sell transformation. So James, this hits exactly what you said. Sales is still going. You still need people to build those relationships. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. AI augmented builders, technical generalist, not pure coders, but people who use AI to build products fast, ship MVPs quickly, launch micro companies, and iterate rapidly. Human-centric roles that require physical presence, which is, and judgment, which is, I feel like, probably the blue collar. So this goes back to what you talked about too. Healthcare practitioners, skilled with tech integration, executive leadership, crisis managers. So what's today, what we don't think is going to leave? AI governance, risk, oversight roles.
So two things, because one thing I forgot to say before. First thing I have to remind is LLMs right now, like, they're just spitting out what is already known. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, we're asking it like something unknown in the future. It has no fucking idea. You know what I mean? It can't predict the future, which is why it doesn't work for picking stocks or anything else like that, really. So like that's what. Also, the flip side of that is, like, that's really what the human value is people who have a vision to create and do something new that hasn't been done before. Like, that's what AI sucks at, and that's that's unfortunately not a skill that. It's not a skill every human has, but there are people out there who are forward thinking that, like, this doesn't displace any of them. There was another point I wanted to mention. I was mentioning you, Jared, like the business you're doing. The thing I'm excited about too is that, like, if you look at people who maybe they own a coffee shop, or maybe they're a carpenter or someone in skilled trades, like, AI also enables them to run a more efficient business themselves. Like, some of these types of places are, they might be smart people, but it's way outside their wheelhouse, and they would never be able to kind of create some of these tools or organize their day. Like, just I like the idea that the technology will be there for people doing real work to have more support to be able to kind of create the things they need to run their business than would have been cost prohibitive even now. So I think that's the biggest net benefit gain. So I want to throw that out there too.
I wonder if there's gonna be like some AI free zones, right? I just think of like a carpenter that, like, yeah, we don't even use any technology here, kind of, adopting like a position of like a Luddite or something, because it's kind of cool, man. Like bookstore, or like coffee shops are full of people like reading books again and stuff. It's yeah.
Get that stupid AI bullshit out of here.
Well, the thing is, if we go back to the science fiction point, like where the AI does make its own language, starts talking and pieces us out, and we have to pull the plugs, like we'll be right back there. So
that's true.
A lot of bunkers being built right now. A lot of people off the grid, digging holes in the ground, prepping.
It is crazy though. I do have a fair amount of people in my circle that are conspiracy
There we go.
theorists.
I was trying to bait him for a Florida story on a bunker builder. Let's go.
No, but I mean, what I'm just saying, like, now, like, all these like things that are coming out and being revealed, like with I guess I'm just gonna say like the Epstein thing, dude, it's insane how many of these crazy conspiracy theorists in my circle are like, I fucking told you, man, and I'm just like, oh.
Well, yeah, the one that I like is like, wow, the QAnon people were strangely right. They got the scope wrong. Yeah. It's just way bigger than they thought it was. And it included the people they thought were the good guys. Like, it's just wow. This went across party lines and country lines and everything.
And the one I'm still holding on to is like, I believe we went to the moon, man. But dude, I'm starting to believe I'm wrong about that. Maybe AI will actually reveal that to ourselves. But yeah, it's been crazy.
The moon, like, so wait, you're talking about people that enter in your circle that think the moon landing was bullshit?
Oh, dude, yeah, like pretty much everything we believe as like like it's like all, it's almost like they believe like the Matrix is real. Yeah, the moon landing is fake. That the government is controlled.
So they think
by,
the moon landing is fake, but
baby
the Matrix is
eating
real.
like demons. One of the guys is probably listening to this, and I love him to death. I'm not going to call him out. Definitely like all like the Epstein stuff and everybody that was involved and like how that's worked out, like the QAnon, like all this stuff. And I've been, going back and forth with them for quite a while, and then I'm losing, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty great.
The only thing I said this yesterday when it came down. I don't know when this is going to go out there. Not to go off on the Epstein tangent. It's the last thing you kind of hear in this podcast. But the fact that Prince Andrew got arrested, so like the UK is actually arresting royals, and still there's probably dozens of people that could be charged with something here.
Whoa, hold on. Hey.
No,
what about, dude? They're releasing the alien files though, so forget the Epstein stuff. The alien stuff is
okay.
Yeah, dude, I don't believe in aliens either. That's what I'm saying. That's another thing I don't believe. They're not visiting us.
There is a 100% chance that aliens exist. 100%. There's a 0% chance they could get here.
Thank you.
Period.
I completely agree. That is my same argument.
I don't think people understand like how
if they're smart enough to get here, they don't need to come here.
How fucking far away it is, and how long it would take.
Shut up. Listen, all I did.
Jared?
First off, two things. One, I think it's hilarious that tweet came out yesterday that he was releasing all the files with the arrest that happened the day before. That was my whole point. That was supposed to be just a little tongue-in-cheek joke, but you guys jumped on it like fucking flies on shit. Yes, I absolutely believe that we don't know what goes on out there. You're basing it off of the knowledge base that we currently have. Why can't something that's 30 galaxies away get here? You're saying it's impossible, but we don't know that. Like, how do you know that?
It would, so here's the thing. Like, anytime there's new science that comes out, it doesn't invalidate the old science. It's like built on top of it. So in order for them to get here, someone would have to find a way to literally to make wormholes real, because the sheer distance, if something is like hundreds of millions of light years away, if at the speed of light, it would take you hundreds of millions of years to get here, so you would have to find a way to go faster than the speed of light, which
what if somebody found a way? What if something found a way?
So here's the thing: is the theory is by the time it would take, like, let's say we would probably die out as a species before we actually get that answer. Like, the technology is so advanced.
What if they're on like warp speed and they just get here?
It's just like there's.
You keep what if and what if and what if.
All I'm saying is that there's so much unknown, and then you guys are basing it off of only the stuff that we know. That's all I'm saying.
Look at how things are going in our world right now, Jared. Do you think we're going to last long enough to solve these problems ourselves? What makes you think that like some other society that probably came from the same like hunter-gatherer caveman roots, that where everyone just wants to eat each other all the time, and like as humans we can't get along with each other, that there's some society out there where everything's a utopia and they're so dedicated to science that they'll eventually keep themselves alive long enough to find the answer? I just don't believe it'll happen.
No, maybe they're at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe they're already here. Just something to think about.
We don't know what's down there. No one talks about
This took a turn.
I guess AI hysteria went straight to...
Absolutely.
I baited John into something. Thought I was going to get a good, crazy story.
I'll talk about science fiction any day. I love this shit, so...
Maybe that's a tip. Next episode 31, we just go down rabbit holes on this shit that has nothing to do with business. Or we can wrap it into business.
Conspiracy theories aren't bullshit. We'll go everyone's favorite conspiracy theory they think is real.
Yeah. I look so naive to the circle.
Well, John's will be funny because he'll be like, that's not a conspiracy theory.
Exactly. John lives in Florida, where like 7 out of 9 neighbors are all conspiracy theorists.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Wholeheartedly. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like, you can't talk about the JFK assassin like anything, and I'm like, dude, it's just weird being so surrounded, all the time, and it really works on your debate skills. And also the Socratic method, where you just keep asking questions and questions, and then there's always this gap that they'll fill, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then it's revealed, and you're like, oof, I guess I was wrong about that. Yeah. You can't bring up anything, dude, like Sandy Hook or any of that stuff. I'm like, dude,
don't get me. I don't.
Those
are the worst people. Of all the worst, of all the bad people out there, believe this. The ones who believe that was they.
Ship them off to the moon. Ship them to the moon.
I'm with you. And like, when you hear the counter argument and stuff, you're just like, wow, okay. I mean, hey, we're all God's children, right, James?
There's certain of them that don't need to be here anymore, and I would say that any Sandy Hook denier is definitely one of them.
All right. So are we marking that down?
Is that how we're going to end?
Yeah, that's how we're going to end it.
Are we? We're going to end on that. Ugh.
Yeah, that is a wrap for episode 30 of the Business is Bullshit podcast, where we talked about AI and conspiracy theories. Catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. James Hornick, Jared Gibson, Jon Tsourakis signing off, reminding you that business is bullshit.
Sure is.